Hi, baby boomer fans. We are Jackie and Janine, the Pfeiffer Sisters, and love to talk about the 1950s, inviting you to reminisce with us as we explore experiences of that decade.
We chronicle the distinct memories of our childhood in our book, While the Windmill Watched, a slice of rural America in the 1950s, which takes you on a notably historic journey through that often forgotten decade. We also want to hear about your experiences during the 1950s. We will feature guests whose special stories of that decade will bring to mind magical moments of reflection, some with tears, some with smiles, but above all, a good dose of laughter.
We would like you to chat with us as we bring to mind the sights and sounds so familiar to that time in history. Grab your favorite malt or Green River. Make sure you are wide awake and get ready to be inspired about the 1950s. Welcome to the 1950s Fun Chat. Hello, friends. Thank you for joining us again. This is number 42 of our fun chats since we began last fall, and we're just having a ball learning more about the 1950s. I tell you, every story that we are able to broadcast has a uniqueness to it, whether our guest grew up on the prairies of North Dakota or grew up in the state of Washington or grew up on the East Coast or grew up in England. They're all wonderful stories and certainly broaden our knowledge of the 1950s. Jackie, can you take it from there, please?
I will be happy to do that. Yes, I would encourage our guests to peruse the screen and notice the purple banner down below. It gives you our website, www.whilethewindmillwatch.com. And if you go there, you'll find all sorts of information about the book and about the authors and about this 1950s fun chat. If you would like to see previous chats, you just click on the fun chat and select which one or ones you'd like to observe. Also, notice in the upper right-hand corner, you'll see a little logo that is of our book. While the Windmill Watched, a slice of rural America in the 1950s. The cover is of a beautiful North Dakota sunset. It has a silhouette of two little girls and the windmill, which pretty much explains what is going on inside the book. Sort of explains. That's just a little teaser to open the book. So we want you to and also look at the little on the bottom there. There's a little white spot. You can't see it, but what that is a little tells of a little award that this book. Let's see, about in April, I guess we were awarded the distinguished favorite in regional in the regional area. So you'll get more of that online, but we want to get right to our guest today. Our guest hails from Southwest Iowa. Her name is Darla Conn. She was born in Atlantic, Iowa in 1952. She's one of 7 children. She and her husband have 2 daughters. And Darla, we certainly do welcome you to the 1950s Fun Chat.
Hi, Darla.
Well, it's going to be, I can tell.
Yes. We do have fun on here.
Yes.
Every one of our guests has a different story. And so sometimes we start with the family and then we go to the school. But we want you to tell us your story, but we'll give you a little hint. We'd like to have you start with your family. Now, 7 children in a family is a lot different from Janine's and my experiences. So begin by telling us how many boys and girls there were. What are the advantages and disadvantages of big fun? Start talking and we'll listen.
Yes.
Well, there was 3 girls, and I'm the oldest of all 7 and 4 boys. Mm-hmm. There was lots of fun times playing in the creeks, playing in the terraces when the rain would come. And nobody will let their kids do that today. So we had lots of fun. We'd make beaver banks down the creek and slide down the creek. And
yes.
And the fun part about, everybody's at the meal table all at the same time. Meals were always at certain times, so everybody knew when to show up. And So Mom did a lot of cooking. She did a lot of canning. My dad farmed. And so, needless to say, when you live on a farm and you got baby calves and it's wintertime, one of them's sure to make it into the house.
And
But
what did you do with it when you brought it into the house?
just put towels over them and make them warm.
Mm-hmm. Was there ever an issue with the mama not accepting the baby then after you brought it in the house?
No, Dad never said anything about that anyhow. And oh yeah, there was babies of all kinds, but we never had dogs and cats in our house.
Okay.
Which was unusual because we had baby calves instead. But we lived in,
Did you have other livestock other than cattle?
Yeah, I think Dad had some pigs. And we had chickens because we had our own eggs.
Sure. As many families back then did.
Oh yeah, you bet. And gardens where you got lots of veggies and stuff out of the gardens, and that takes a lot of work. And yeah, it was a special time.
Did you have to do much work in the garden, or were you your dad's helper, being the oldest child?
I was more Dad's helper. I was I guess you'd call me a tomboy. And my sister, she always worked in the kitchen. Donna did, and oh, that was something to mention. There's all D's in my family. Darlene and Delbert are my folks. Darla, Donna, Daryl, Danny, Delilah, David, and Dwayne.
When Fred and I were first married and moved to this community, and I first met Delilah because she was in our 4-H club and I was a leader.
Oh, yeah.
I thought, oh, this is interesting. Now I have to learn to remember all those names. But great family, great family.
So what are some of the advantages of being in a large family?
Well, it turns out when you have a holiday dinner now, there's about close to 70 people there, and it makes it very precious.
Wonderful.
I guess that's what you'd call it. After all the work of preparing everything.
Yeah. Right. So when you were younger and you were the oldest, did you feel that sometimes you were the mother to your younger siblings? Or not?
No, not really, because my youngest brother, he was born in January when I was a senior. I graduated in May and I got married in the fall. So all the time when I went to visit, he didn't know I was his sister. He just thought I was somebody to come to visit until he was old enough to figure it out.
Yes.
So what were some disadvantages, or were there any, as far as you know, of having a large family?
I don't think there would be any disadvantages except for maybe the cost of living. I'm sure we had to do lots of work, or Dad did, to furnish food for that many kids all the time. And one good thing, hamburger wasn't $9 a pound.
Yes, not then. But did you have your own meat that you processed as well?
Yes, we did. And in fact, they got together with one of my cousins, my dad's cousin, and they had a whole basement set up with all the saws and everything to butcher in their house. And everybody would go there, and the women would have jobs of wrapping the meat or, cutting something up or grinding a hamburger. And yes, they processed their own meat all the time when I was a kid.
That sounds very familiar. It was very similar in our family too, where the neighbors, the beef hung in the basement, aging until 2 or 3 weeks, Jackie, maybe?
Yes, 2 weeks, 2 weeks, 10 days. But it wasn't just in the basement. We had a cold room there.
Yes.
We call it in a cement room. And so
this would have just been in a basement with no heat or anything. It had been a cold basement too, I'm sure.
Yes. And to think in today's world of being self-sufficient pretty much with food is odd, because we're so dependent on the grocery store and the truck drivers to get the product to us at the
Oh,
grocery.
yeah. Yeah.
And did you milk cows as well?
Oh, yes. We milk cows. I can handle that. You bet.
I love it.
And feed the cats along with it.
Yes, yes. Well, were you your dad's favorite milker?
I don't know. I maybe could have been because I know I was always out there.
So was your family kind of an equal opportunity family in that you worked outside and so did your brothers, and did they ever like make meals inside, and did you do that as well? Learn about cooking?
No, I never really cooked inside. Donna was always the one to hang out in the kitchen, and I would be hanging outside someplace and driving the tractor and harrowing in the field. And
Yes.
I about got fired on that one though, because every time I got to the end row, I'd slip the clutch. So guess what? The clutch burned up. So I got stuck out in the middle of a great big field.
Was your dad mechanically minded?
Yeah, pretty good. Yeah, they did a lot of their own maintenance work too. Yes.
Yes. Well, I know you lived close to in the community where we have lived for 49 years in
Sure.
Southwest Iowa, and there was a little, I'm going to call it a little burg on the road of US Highway 71 south of Atlantic, and it was called Fletcher Chapel Corner. Tell us about Fletcher Chapel Corner, please.
Well, Fletcher Chapel Corner, there was a grocery store there. There was a mechanic, had a building there to work on vehicles. There was a Methodist church across the street, across the highway from the store. And all the surrounding neighbors all went to the same church. It seemed like you didn't really have a lot of preferences back then, I guess, but it seemed like everybody grew up in that same Fletcher Chapel store. And then when 71 got widened, then my dad and his two brothers and his two cousins, they tore down the Methodist church. And my uncle saved a lot of the lumber. In later years, he made a replica of the store and the church as a miniature building. And he used the lumber out of the church to make the replicas. And they are on display down to Griswold at the museum.
Okay. And another one of our Fun Chat guests, Shona Putnam, has responsibility with that Cass County Museum in Griswold. So that's really neat.
Yes.
That she's probably very up and aware of what your uncle Uncle Wayne's work. Yes, he was a tremendous craftsman.
Oh, beautiful museum. He's got a whole room down there full.
Yeah. Oh, wonderful. Wonderful. Well, I think it's interesting that you pointed out that when Highway 71 was widened, that Fletcher Chapel no longer existed. The garage that was used actually had come over to the property where we live when we were, and then it was here for until the tornado of what was about 1979 or 80. It was July 4th. Came through, and then it demolished that building. So everyone was economizing then and making use of what materials they had on hand. But I think it also shows that with progress in the line of transportation, the need for widening highways for bigger cars, and people were more mobile in the 1950s. The little burgs outside the bigger communities were demolished, and that happened also 7 miles up the road, or 5 miles up the road, where Fred lived, because there was a community center there and a country school, and that all went too because of the widening of the highway. So sometimes you have to let go of things in the name of progress.
Well, our country school, when I was little, from kindergarten, first grade, second grade, went to country school south of your house to that intersection.
Okay.
That is the country school that is up in Sunnyside Park right now,
All right.
as for people to visit.
Sure.
And yeah, we walked to school. It didn't matter if it was winter or summer. We walked to school, and if it was wintertime, we'd have recess. We'd get to go up on McFadden's Hill and sleigh ride for recess, and had a sandbox out on the porch. And yeah, quite the fun memories. And then that's when the school district changed also and sent us to Atlantic. But the teacher taught from kindergarten to, I think it was 8th grade. And it was just like a room full of kids. It wasn't tremendously a lot of kids, but I guess she must have done a good job. We all turned out pretty good.
What did you take in your lunch bucket, Darla?
What did I take in it?
Yeah. What did you have to eat in that lunch bucket?
I don't remember.
Okay.
Sorry, but I guess that wasn't important to remember.
I guess not. I guess not. Can you, in our earlier conversation before we started recording, we talked about hairstyles of that 1950s and home perms. Tell us about that in your family, please.
We had home perms, and we had fuzzy hair, and then the boys decided they wanted perms, so Mom gave the boys perms, and they had curly hair. I don't know what the fad was with the curly hair, but we had it.
And were they Tony home perms with that terrible styling solution?
Yeah, with the little hair rods that you use to wrap the perm up with little paper. And
yes.
Oh yeah, we had heads of curls.
And why do you think our mothers put us through that torture?
I don't know, but we sure did.
Yes. And I think for us, Jackie, do you think it was through the 50s that then as we got older, we wanted different styles of hair, and it just became something different?
Oh yeah, then we got really long hair. Then there was a fad there because that would have probably been in the later 60s. But everybody had long hair because we had ponytails, and we didn't have braids like the kids have today, but we had long straight hair. And that's when I would have been a pitcher for the Griswold School District. And we won Southwest Iowa Champs my senior year, and I was pretty proud of it, and I love softball today.
Oh, cool.
You were talking about all the members of your family. This is kind of skipping back a while, but I didn't get to ask. Were your grandparents near there, and did you have a relationship with them?
Oh, yeah, you bet. We were all within, we were all within 10 miles of each other, and spent many nights at both grandparents'. And even today, there's one or two that will stray, but the biggest share of us are within 20 miles of each other.
I see. So how do you think that the relationship with your grandparents, how did that help you as a child? How did that strengthen you? How did that make you feel?
Yeah, the one grandma, Mom's folks, she's the one that was a sewer, and I guess that's where I got my sewing knowledge from her. Made lots of little homemade dresses. Well, even high school, we had to wear homemade dresses to high school. And the other grandma, she was the cooker, and you'd walk in her house, and she'd have this great pan of milk souring to make cottage cheese with, and it stunk to no end. It's hard to eat cottage cheese.
I love it.
And every time we went there, we'd have to get the loaf of bread out and the maple syrup, and we'd have to have a syrup sandwich.
Oh. Was it purchased syrup, or did you have maple trees to tap?
No, it was purchased syrup.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, in a gallon can.
yeah.
In
Oh,
can. Yep, it came that way.
Well, for your family, it was probably just the right size.
Yeah,
So,
probably right.
so that speaking of the smell, did you ever butcher chickens?
Oh yes, we
Yeah.
butchered chickens and had the nail there and chopped their head off and throw them out away from you, and the little boogers would come right back and chase you, squirting
With the
blood
blood,
all over everywhere.
right?
yeah.
But we never ate chicken on the day we butchered chickens.
Exactly. We
It
never did that.
was a different day to eat the chicken because there was no way you could eat it after doing what all we had to do to it, singeing the hair off of it and all that stuff.
Yes.
But when we did sweet corn, everybody shows up to do sweet corn and still do to this day. And we just have a processing line. We can do 200 bags plus a night.
Oh.
And it's pretty awesome to get together and do that. And but that we will eat the day we can corn because we'll turn that up.
Yeah.
Does that happen at your place since you're the oldest child, or where do you do the sweet corn preparation?
We used to always do it at my folks' house, but after they were gone and we sold the acreage, now we do it at David and Michelle's house.
Okay, alrighty.
Yeah.
And go ahead, Jackie.
Ask about the music. Was music in your home? And if so, in what form?
We had a piano, and I took piano lessons for a while, but that fizzled out. And I had an accordion I played for a while, but music was not a real big thing for us.
Okay. Did you listen to it on the radio in your family?
Oh yeah, we did that.
And more country western style, or still the big band era of music?
Well, I don't know if it would have been actual country back then. Would it have been?
Well, or maybe that was starting to go from into rock and roll. But I think
that's where I would be coming in at, is the rock and roll.
Okay. And Darla, did you ever? I know this is past the 1950s, but did you ever go to any teen dances, anything like that in Atlantic?
Not in Atlantic, because at that point I was going to Grizzled school, so we went to teen dances at the school.
Okay.
Yeah. I don't remember any in Atlantic. Well, yeah, there was at the community building. Yeah. So I did go to some of those. Yes.
Okay.
That would be all rock and roll, I'm sure, wouldn't it?
I think so. Yes.
Yeah, I think so.
Fred talks about having gone to some of those, and then Ray Armstrong was, do you know Ray? Yeah, was in a rock and roll band, and we hope to have him on as a guest in the near future, and he has talked about playing there.
Oh yeah, and he still plays.
Yes,
he does, and he's good.
It's interesting because a lot of those groups, those rock and roll groups who were popular in the 1950s, as the band members aged, the bands took a hiatus, and now a lot of those band members are back at it.
Coming back at it. Yep, they are. You bet.
It's amazing how they've gotten gray hair and they've gotten older. Some of them have gotten little pot bellies, but their voices haven't changed.
No, they can still sing.
That's right. That's right.
Great.
Tell us about in country school, if you recall, what games you played other than going to McFadden's Hill and sliding down and baseball you play, or softball, but other games?
I think we played some baseball and softball.
And did you have a favorite subject in school, Darla? Or maybe we've lost her at this point.
Ooh.
Okay. Well, we'll see if we can get Darla back. And if not, this has been a super fun chat with my neighbor and friend, Darla Conn from Atlantic Lewis, Iowa area in Southwest Iowa. So Jackie, we hope that Darla will enjoy seeing this and keeping this as a keepsake for her for her and her family, that's one of the reasons that we were so excited to have Darla on, was because her niece had said, "Oh, you have to talk to my Aunt Darla, because I want to have that keepsake broadcast as a memory of what our family was alike in the 50s." And that's one reason why we do the 1950s Fun Chat. Wouldn't you say, Jackie?
Yes. And when you were speaking with Darla earlier, did she happen to mention any fond memories of growing up?
What I came away from was the fact that just the joy of living in a family, in her family. And I think you could tell too from her jovial personality that she loves life, and she loves living around in this community, and her family members, or even her extended family, are all within 20 miles. And that's a blessing that the Kirchhoff Conn family is still in this area, and enjoys each other's company. Most of them, or many of them, I should say, are farmers still and produce food to feed the world. So it's an important job, and we're so thankful that we had the opportunity to visit with Darla Conn. It was a fun broadcast. So Jackie, next time we might think about who our guest and what our guest might be talking about the next time. But until then, we hope that our viewers will remember the times of malt shops. And we didn't get into that with Darla, if she went to the local malt shop, or if she even wore a poodle skirt. I kind of have a feeling that maybe since she was outside with her dad so much, that didn't happen on the farm. But there are all kinds of wonderful memories of the 1950s, and we hope that you will join us again next time, folks.
So, viewers, please do look at that red subscribe button and hit that. And also the little thumbs up button, click that. We would like to make sure that you are making your presence known. Of course, there won't be any record of who did what, but we'd like to have you let us know that you looked at the Fun Chat and enjoyed it. Mm-hmm. So we would like to have you also tell your friends, even your relatives, about this 1950s Fun Chat. And as I mentioned previously, you can go to our website. As you open it up in the upper right-hand corner, it says 1950s Fun Chat, and you just click on that, and you can see all the fun chats we've had in the past.
Yes.
People from all over the United States. And if you feel that you might want to be a guest, just let us know, and we'll be happy to speak with you about that.
And you can let us know through our website in case you're wanting to know, or look at our Facebook page, the 1950s Fun Chat. We also have a Facebook page, While the Windmill Watched. And you can just put a post on there for us and say, hey, I've got a great story, or I have great memories of the 1950s I'd really like to share. And, Jackie, what I think is so interesting is that we know what life was like for many folks on the prairies and in the Midwest. But what makes it even more interesting is when we hear stories from outside that area, to know how others were living in that decade, and how that decade of the 50s affected them, even on into their adult lives.
So do join us every week. The program is put on the Fun Chat, YouTube, Monday nights at 8 o'clock Central Time. So you can view us at that particular time, or, when something's on YouTube, it's on there forever. So you'll be able to see a Fun Chat at that time as well. That's Monday Central Time, 8 o'clock.
That's right. Well, we've had fun today, and we hope that you have too. We'll see you next time on the 1950s Fun Chat. Bye-bye.